This is a beginner's guide of how to start your reselling journey. Are you somebody that wants to become a reseller of secondhand or vintage clothing? Are you wanting to actually start it from a bedroom? Are you just wanting to get going with the process that is buying and selling vintage and or secondhand clothing, or vintage and or secondhand anything, or just the whole process of reselling? But where does the actual journey start, and what's the simplest way to actually get into it? I'm going to use this video to give you a breakdown beginner's guide into how to actually start your reselling journey. Step 1, understand what it is you actually want out of this experience. Again, it might not be an experience, it could be a hobby that turns to a passion, that turns to a profession. That's actually my 3 things: hobby, passion to profession, of how I know where I am with things. Understand what it is you want out of this. Do you want this to be your full-time job in a year's time? Do you want to just sell some bits on the side and have a full-time job, so this is just a little bit of pocket money? Do you want to just sell some brands of things that you actually like? Or do you want to sell stuff from your own wardrobe and see how that goes? Either way, you have to understand what it is you want out of it. In order to understand what you want out of it, you just ask them sort of questions to yourself and figure out what those answers are, and it will allow you to go to step 2. Step 2, the blueprint. From your understanding of what you actually want, how is this going to become into a fruition? And how are you going to map out the route that you're going to need to take to get there? So say you've understood that you want to have a part-time hustle that is reselling. You want to sell some of your clothes first and you want to go into the next step. The blueprint would be looking at a 3, 6, 9 and a 12-month plan, for example, of going in 3 months' time, I want to have X amount of products on X amount of platforms. In 6 months' time, I want to have had X amount of sales. In 9 months, I want to have had X amount of growth. And in 12 months, I want to have X amount of review that I can go back, learn what I did right, learn what I did wrong, and go to the next step. But you need the blueprint. And before you need the blueprint, you need the understanding. Once you've created the blueprint for this idea, we go into step 3. Now, step 3 is all about plausibility of this blueprint you've created, looking at what you've set out. Have you set out to have 150 sales in the first 2 to 3 months? Have you figured out how you're going to make that possible? Have you figured out how you're going to even buy the clothes? The plausibility of the blueprint is basically looking through everything that you've set out to do and going, is this possible? Is that time frame realistic? Can I do this? What challenges am I going to face? And just a little tip on top of this, the best thing you can do is fail as fast as possible and as quickly as possible, because the learning lessons you get from that are just going to be able to make you boost up in the right direction. Some of the things I've learned are really helping me know which way to pioneer myself in the right directions. And I tell you right now, even at this point, 12 years in the game, learning things and failing from them every single day is a part of the process. I obviously don't fail that many times, not every day, but you know what I mean. So we've got part 1, we've got part 2, and we've got part 3. Part 4, and this is the beginner's guide to it, okay? So all of these points should be very simple to understand and figure out. Once you look at step 1, which is your understanding of what you want to do, and then you go to step 2 of the blueprint you want to create, and then step 3 of the plausibility of the blueprint based on the understanding you have, we go to step 4. And step 4 is execution. You've looked at the plausibility, you've figured out that side of things. You have to look at all the different angles and think, is this possible? What challenges may I face? How is that going to help me get to the next point? And then once we've figured out all those little incremental points, we look at execution. How am I going to take my photos? How am I going to get my brand out there? How am I going to sort out customer service? How am I logistically going to go to the post office in between having a full-time job? Because remember, that was your intention at the start. Not directly, but you know, in this example. Understanding what you want to do, the blueprint that you're going to create, the plausibility of that blueprint, and then the execution based on the plausibility of the blueprint from the understanding. And I would say 4 of those points would be the best way for you to kind of have a beginner's guide into reselling. There's so much that you can look at and so many things you can be distracted by, but essentially what you have to do is figure out what you want out of this experience, how you're going to make this a reality, what problems you may face as a result of this, and how you can execute it in the best outcome possible. Guys, as always, stay safe, sustainable. Feel free to keep dropping comments of what you want to see your boy do in these videos, and I will just make that come to life in the best way that I can. As always, keep doing you and trust in your process. If you aren't a reseller and you just like watching this sort of reselling content, then hey, how are you? And for everybody who is a reseller, keep going. Get off this video, get uploading, get selling, get sending offers. Big up, guys. See you tomorrow.